What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're installing a Motorguide Xi3 on a Native Titan X. This thing's heavy, one second. Okay, so the cool thing is Native actually has a Bowmount kit for this. They actually sell, like, you can get the Motorguide, a battery, and a Bowmount kit all together. And that is helpful because they also have put in the time and effort to make a really good install video on this whole process. Watched it a few times, feel pretty confident with it. I've seen a few other folks out there do like a DIY version of this, and I decided I would just go with the factory standard. Like, this is what Native put out, this is what Native wants you to use. So obviously it should work the best or be the cleanest install version, I hope. And I guess we're kind of putting that to the test. Like, does this Bowmount kit really have everything that we need for it? Is it worth the cost? I'll go over the cost with you guys in a minute in terms of, you know, getting it from Native themselves, this curated kit, or do you just go get it yourself on Amazon? Because you definitely could. If you know the parts list, you could go through it. The biggest issue would be the hardware, the nuts, the bolts to the specific sizes. You could figure that out. Be a little trial and error. You'd probably have to go to the hardware store 3 times. You know the drill. I'll probably have to go to the hardware store anyway, so let's be real. The point is, by the end of this video, we will be Bowmount motorized. So we're gonna have the Xi3 on the front. This is the freshwater GPS, the pinpoint version. It's $13.49 if you buy it separately. We're gonna be testing our trolling motor battery we've been sitting on for a while now from Power Queen. That'd be this one right here. So we have the 12 volt, 100 amp hour battery. It ain't small. Power Queen does make a mini. If I were to do this again, I would get the mini. They did send us that battery, so I'm using what I was sent, obviously, before I go spend money, but their batteries are pretty inexpensive. So this will be a dedicated battery. Nothing else is gonna get wired to this. I do wanna point out that there is technically a way that you could like daisy chain your battery. You could use your 100 amp hour battery for fish finder, for trolling motor. It's not recommended. Go to any message board, look up any manufacturer details. They're all gonna say just use a dedicated battery because you're gonna risk a lot of interference with that. Now there's a few DIY ways around that, and I'll try to link the videos to a few guys that I saw out there in case you wanted to try it for yourself. I'm not gonna do that. I don't wanna mess with this, at least at this moment. I've seen some pretty cool like battery setups, relay setups, switcher setups, and then ways that people have dealt with the interference on the internet. You guys are smart out there doing some cool stuff. So I'll try to call out those videos or channels whenever I can. We're not doing that on this video. If you guys want to do that, do your own research, make sure you're smart about it, and don't mess up your expensive boat or trolling motor. Obviously Native has their own install video. Of course, they're gonna be like, here's the Bowmount kit, it's legit, install's super easy. I'm here to prove if it is or isn't easy by doing it myself. If I can figure it out, you guys definitely can, because I'm not that great at this stuff. And then I want to give my overall feel for what it's like having that Xi3 on the front of this Native Titan X. Native Titan X, we've done our first looks. I've had it out in the water twice now. I feel really confident with this thing. Very well balanced, very stable, high weight capacity. I feel like it can handle the added weight of the Xi3 from Motorguide, as well as this extra trolling motor battery and all the wiring and stuff, and be just fine. And we do have our fish finder installed already, so I do have another battery up here from X2. So I'll also be kind of comparing those batteries later on in the year. So if you want to see over time how I feel about this install, how things go, any issues I run into, and get some reviews in terms of those batteries for their battery life, longevity, all that stuff, stay tuned to the channel. Maybe subscribe, maybe smash a like on this video. Without further ado, here's what we're gonna do for this video. I'm gonna get into it. I'm just gonna do the work. I'm not gonna make you guys watch me at like 400x speed. The Native watercraft install video, the professionally done one, will be linked in the description below. I'd encourage you just to watch that if you wanna see the actual full install. Let's get to it. Okay, check it out. So this is an accessory that doesn't come with this kit, but you guys absolutely have to get this if you're gonna run the Bowmount motor. So in your mid console, this is your little drop-in plate. So when you put your pedal drive in, it sits in this hole here. This covers it up so water isn't just splashing back into you. Now, when you run your Xi3, water is still gonna shoot up through this hole unless you get, oh my gosh, this thing, which is apparently impossible to get out. So obviously it's sealed up. So this right here is what they call the drive box scupper plug. It's a custom cut piece of foam designed to fit very, very snugly into the largest scupper hole in the boat, which is where the drive box is. So with that said, like, sure, you could get a big old piece of foam and you could cut this to your own dimensions. This right here is 40 bucks. So unless you have that foam already and you have the correct tools to cut that, I'd recommend just getting this one from Native. If you do have the correct tools and you can DIY this, great. You can totally make it yourself. Just something to point out, there's gonna be a lot of things throughout this video that are like, you're paying a premium to just get the convenience of Native has already done the work and put it together, or you can, you know, learn and DIY it yourself. And there's a lot of do-it-yourself videos out there that could help you with this. The issue is that there aren't that many DIY videos on the Titan X. So a lot of this is gonna be just kind of figuring it out yourself. So I just thought I'd point that out. Now we go to the box, right? So these are all the things that you get with this kit. So far we've got 60 amp breaker. We've got the Motorguide receptacle. We've got a through hull kit plus a really nice fancy sleeve for your cable. We've got the XL-GT cleat from Kayak. We've got that trolling motor plug. So what we'll be doing is we'll be taking this basic wiring that the Xi3 includes, because it's designed to just attach directly to a battery. We're gonna cut these wires, splice them with that plug right here. That plug is gonna go into a receptacle that'll be right here, so we can keep that battery cable super short and out of the way. We've got 8-gauge wire that's gonna run throughout the hull of the boat. So it's gonna run all the way back to here. And this is where our battery is gonna be sitting. Now, the battery that I picked up, unfortunately, is too tall to fit in this little drop-in bin. So the drop-in bin will be out. Nice thing about this though is that this has a seal all around the outside. So it'll still seal up afterwards once this goes back over top. This is exactly what they do in the Native video, and it'll be watertight and everything will be okay. That brings us to our battery connector, little simple connect there. That one's specifically, this is for Dakota Lithium, but it doesn't matter because it's just gonna connect to the battery. And then we have the first couple things we're gonna do. This is the Native Titan X bow mount with all screws included. All the hardware is included with all this stuff. This is gonna be an interesting setup we do later on, and that's gonna be our release kit. So if you guys don't know, the Xi3 has a foot pedal release because it's designed for boats. Even though this is the Kayak setup, the 36-inch shaft, which by the way, if you want to pick up your own Xi3 for a Kayak, you're going to need that 36-inch shaft, not the 48, 52, etc. Those are too long. So 36 is where you got to go. So as a kayaker, your foot is not up here. Your foot's way back here. So you have to rig this up where you can pull a string, it'll pop the pedal down, and that allows your Xi3 to drop over the front. You'll see how we do it later. And final piece, we have the single most expensive part in here. These are about 85 bucks on Amazon, but that is the Motorguide quick release. So these two pieces will be the first two that we deal with, and then it's gonna be mostly electrical from here. So let's get to it. All right, you guys, we have completed the Xi3 install. We have a motor. Hey, do you wanna see it? Bam, look at that thing. I even got my numbers on this because I got registered yesterday as well. So a couple things to point out. When it comes to getting a kit like this, putting a motor on a kayak, period, in the vast majority, if not all states, you have to register your kayak because you're now a motorized vessel. I would say in the vast majority of states, you gotta register your yak. Now, the way that process works, if you're not familiar, is you go to your Secretary of State. And then at your Secretary of State, you're gonna say, I need to register my boat. It's under 20 feet, electric motor. And then they'll give you a price. In my state, Michigan, it's 17 bucks. However, if you haven't paid sales tax, so if you got a deal like I did, I got, Native, I paid cash for this, but I got a discount. They didn't charge me sales tax. If you got a free kayak, if you bought a kayak from somebody, like potentially you're gonna have to pay sales tax, so be ready for that. I got dinged on this bad boy, ended up costing me about 180 bucks to get registered. And what that does is it gives you an MC number, which is this number you can see on the side of my boat there, and a sticker tag like you have on your car. Gotta do it, be smart about it, don't get pulled over by your local DNR or DNR equivalent in your state and get in trouble over that. So heads up, do the work. I'll also say, like, there's not a lot of people talking about it on the internet, so you're not gonna find out a lot of information on how to do it. Just look up your local Secretary of State type office and just book an appointment for anything. This is what I found out. In Michigan, for example, when you book an appointment, it says like, select your reason, and this is not a reason you can select. So just pick anything, just show up, they don't care. And then when you show up, say, I need to register my boat. So there's my pro tip for that. Ultimately, you gotta get it done. Next, let's talk this kit. So cost-wise for this kit from Native specifically, and it's made for the Titan X. They do have one for the Slayer kits as well. This kit alone is $599. hang on, I'll get back to that. The kit with the motor and a battery, you have a choice between a 60 amp hour and a 100 amp hour. Will go anywhere from $2,300 to $2,700 bucks. Okay, so the cost of the kits you can see here. We've got no motor and no battery, $599, that's what I got. You got the Xi3 freshwater GPS, $2,749. Xi3 salt GPS, $2,899. And then you select your battery size here. So if I did Xi3 with 60 amp hour, it's actually $2,699. And then if I wanted to do the 100 amp hour, it'd be $2,899 for that freshwater. So just so you know what they're offering there. And again, they got kits for some of their other kayaks like the Slayer as well. Here's the deal. If you haven't bought your Xi3 or your battery yet, do the all-in kit. I think it's worth it. You are paying a very slight premium. I believe it's around 150 bucks to have this all sourced for you and sent to you. The nice thing about that is you don't have to shop around. So for example, I picked up my Xi3 from Bass Pro. I picked up the kit from Native and I picked up the battery from Power Queen. Now Power Queen sent me that, but I did pay 600 bucks for this Native kit. So I feel entitled to talk about it. And then the Xi3 I paid full price for the GPS is $1349 off of Bass Pro. Those all shipped free, so I'm not worried about shipping, but you're paying tax and you're paying a little slight premium on the Bowmount kit from Native, right? So it's something to keep in mind. Now for 600 bucks, is it worth it? I think it still is. The reason I think it is even though I'm paying that premium, 100, 150 bucks, it's because I'm getting everything sourced for me, especially the most frustrating pieces, which would be the hardware, right? So sourcing the correct size bolts, all of that is a pain in the butt. Can't just use the ones that come with your Xi3 because you need 4 long bolts for the quick release to go into the brass inserts at the front of this boat. And you need the correct slightly shorter screws that go through the bow mount bracket that I'll walk you guys through in a second, through the bow mount bracket up there. So you need the right screws, you need the right track mount pieces. Now Yak Attack stuff's easy to find. These little, it's a quick cleat is what it's called. Finding these was a pain in the butt. Probably the hardest thing to find to get the right size that is for the cable and for the track that's track mountable. Most of these that you can find are super small and they're usually meant to just go right to the hull of the boat, not a track. There's a couple custom things in there that I think added a bit of value. If I had to rate the value of this package, I'd give it like a 7.5 out of 10, just because you are paying a premium up for some of those components. And I just want to be real with you guys and open about that. I didn't love spending 600 bucks on that kit. I did love that everything I needed and the exact amount and length of everything I needed was included, like the Spectra cable, the rope, the hardware, everything. I did end up with 2 things in the kit I didn't use because if you use a 100 amp hour big ol' battery, you don't end up using the drop-in bucket in the battery box back here. So you don't have to do the through hull wiring. Everything just lives inside the hull. So I have an extra Yak Attack through hull wiring piece and I didn't use this. I actually destroyed it. So this is the sleeve that is one piece. It is not, unrollable, but this is what they want you to slide over the power cable up front. What I did instead is, I tried this, I cut it off and said, you're in the trash now, is I picked up on Amazon split 1/2 inch rolled cable cover. Right? So it's rolled, which means you can just roll it around your power cable. So now it looks like that. Super clean. It is 1/2 inch and it's barely the right size. So I'd probably go 3/4 inch if you guys were picking this up. A couple of zip ties, you can keep your cables all together looking clean. And that's like $8 on Amazon. So that would be like one extra thing I would definitely get. The other thing I would get as well, actually, now that I think of it, and this is also 2 Native, I would love to see you guys do this. So 1 Native, I would love to see the split rolled cable cover. Instead of the 1-piece cable cover, because 1-piece cable covers suck. They just do. They're such a pain to deal with and to get the right length, and then you gotta squeeze it out of the way to like do your wire crimping and all that stuff. It's just not it. So a split sleeve would be way better. And then I would love them to include 2 of the Yak Attack tie down track mount tie downs, right? And the reason for that is that this right here is my pull cord for the Xi3. So if I want to pull this thing up, the problem with it is, let's say I have a console, because I do, and a lot of people do as well, there is no good like position for this. I have to basically pull it center, and then I got to go around my fish finder and then dock it here so that my pedals don't run into it if I'm pedaling at all. And like, I'm kind of 50-50 on if I'm gonna bring my pedals. I'm gonna try it for a week. I might not use them again, maybe, we'll see. But it's just a thought that I had, because then you could guide this cord starting here, I could guide it down to here and then back here. And that way when I pull it, like I'm still able to lift the motor up and keep the rope out of the way of my pedals and the inside of the hull and like rods and stuff I got laying down or whatever. So just a thought, I would love that to be included. I picked up some stainless steel circle style ones from Amazon that I'm gonna test out with this, and I'll let you guys know how it goes and you can see me in action with that later. Walk you through all the steps of the install that I went through and what I thought about this, but real quick, I wanted to point out difficulty, right? What's the level of difficulty of doing this install versus other installs you can do on a kayak? I will say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the hardest possible install you could ever have, this is like a 3.5 or a 4. It's really not that hard, which surprised me. The hardest part I'll say for this was, and the most frustrating for me, was the cables. Because you're dealing with a trolling motor, you're dealing with 6 and 8 AWG or gauge cables. If you guys aren't familiar, the higher the number, the smaller the cables. Like a 20 gauge cable is super small. An 8 and a 6 gauge cable, they're super thick. So if you don't have the correct electrical equipment for this, you're gonna have a tough time. I would recommend, even though they're not cheap, something like these. Now these were not the right size. That's why it was so frustrating for me. But I got these on Amazon. It's Hystronica, right? But this is a crimper. Now you can get the bigger size crimp piece. So there should be an extra one. They sell those as well. I think this kit would be like 50 bucks, maybe more. But having the right size crimper is huge. Otherwise you're gonna have the same frustration I did, which is I jacked up a couple of these splicing pieces because I didn't have the right size crimper. And then make sure you have the right size wire cutter. So this tool is really neat. You can see that it kind of pinches the wire and then this part cuts it and then it pulls off the tip of the wire so you get your exposed wires underneath. And that way you can splice them together and do all the electrical work that you got to do. This was not the right size either. It was too small of a gap here to fit 6 and 8 gauge cable. So that sucked. It was annoying. So make sure you have these in the right size. Check when you order it, make sure it's rated for up to a 6 gauge cable. Because there is one time at the front of the boat, you're gonna deal with 6 gauge, and then the rest of the boat, you're gonna deal with 8, right? All the marine cable that Native includes with the kit is 8 gauge. Another thing I think that they should just include in this kit, but don't, this is Native I'm talking about, is this piece here. So this is that custom foam insert I showed you early in the video. It's 40 bucks. They should just put this in the kit. If they did, I think this kit would be like a 9 out of 10. So this is one big missing component that I would love to see. I mean, if we really want an all-in-one kit, that should be part of that all-in-one. So there's a couple things I would love to see Native update. Give me cable guides, a split rolled cable cover up front. It's just a short piece. It's not gonna cost them anything. It's probably cheaper than that piece is. That piece that they gave me is kind of like a rod sleeve. It might even be a rod sleeve that they just cut and like, you know, sent with this. I don't know. But the split rolled stuff, way better. Other than that, they had everything you need. So tell you what, let me walk you front to back and just give you any tips that I found along the way. And obviously I wanna show you that this thing's working. So let's check that out. Okay, so first off, we have paired our remote. So let's go up front here. You got your power receptacle right there. Immediately it gets power, but you wanna make sure it's nice and snug. There you go. So cable stays out of the way here. I could probably zip tie that up even more and make it even cleaner. Anyways, so it's pretty clean. You can see we got power. In a second we'll get satellite, even though I'm in the garage. It does pick it up pretty good, so that's for your GPS. And then you can see I've already got this thing deployed and adjusted the height to where I think will be the right height. I'll adjust that more when I get on the water. I haven't done like anything to set this thing up other than get the remote going. But here we go. Let's see if this works. Oh, it just got signal. Prop is on. There we go. Woo, look at that. Look at that baby purr. All right, and then if you want to stop, just hit that. And then we got anchor, which would be once my GPS is in place, we can do that. Right now I don't have GPS because I'm not outside. So there you go, pretty neat, huh? So it works, which is great. Now I have a way to, oh, there it is. Let's see if this works. Look at that. Yo. I just hit the anchor and it's trying to anchor me. Okay, calm down, buddy. All right, so I have the instructions and I need to learn some stuff about that. We'll get back to that later. All right, so front to back, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show you the hatch and then I'll pull this system together and we'll go through this, all right? First off, let's unplug this so we don't get ourselves into trouble, eh? Very secure. Okay, so front to back, you've got the quick release plate right here and the bow mount bracket. Very easy to install. A little bit confusing because they had 2 extra screw holes in this bow mount plate that you don't use, which is like, okay, that was weird. Anyways, so just something to note, you only use 6 screws for that, 6 bolts rather. You've got on this front power link plate, you're gonna install your receptacle here. Easy to do. Problem is, you're really gonna wanna make sure you have a hole saw kit. So if you don't have a hole saw or a hole saw drill bit, it looks like this. Now the thing is, I didn't have the right size. So unfortunately, I did, at one point I picked up a kit from my local Menards. If you guys know Menards, then you know what's up. For like $2, and it had like 10 sizes, but it didn't have this size. So you need a 1 1/8 inch hole saw bit. So make sure you have that. Otherwise you have to do what I did. You can either do the 1 1/4 inch and use a bunch of marine goop, or you can do the 1 inch and you're gonna have to cut out a little bit more of that space. So something to keep in mind. So 1 1/8 you need for that hole. Then you got this very simple bracket here, which is kind of open to the inside of the hull. Don't love that. Kind of was hoping there was a different way to do that, but you do need this cable to be able to move. I'm assuming that even if it's downpouring rain, I'm just not gonna get that much water in there. I hope. So that is the one questionable thing that I had about this whole kit. We'll see. I'll report back to you guys on how that goes. This is a Spectra cable, and they have a pretty ingenious setup for that I'll get into. You do have to drill 1 hole in the plate here, in the foot pedal rather, to put your carabiner on. But this is hands down the best foot pedal release idea that I've seen on kayaks like this. Plenty of people have been using the Xi3 for kayaks over the past years, a couple of years. There's been plenty of install ideas. Lots of people just like have a rope attached to the inside here and they just pull down really hard to get that thing going. Don't love that. This is a much more effective way to do it in my opinion. Open up in here. This is where all of our power is going on for our fish finder. You can see I've already got a Yak power. Here's my battery for the fish finder, the X2, and I've got a Yak power 5-panel switcher here, as well as my cables for my forward facing and my transducer, network panel down there, blah, blah, blah. I've also got a little USB here as well. So there was already a lot of power stuff going on here, but check this out. So this is crucial to operate effectively, but this is your 60 amp breaker. And you do need to go 60 because this draws 53 amps, I believe. So if you get a 50 amp breaker, it's not quite enough. Even though Motorguide says just do a 50, we go overkill with that 60 amp breaker. So there you go. So that's just attached to the side of the bucket just to be there. And then it's wired to the red power cord so that it does its job. Nice thing is the bucket fits back in there just perfectly fine. We ran our marine wire from where that receptacle is all the way back here. Now, that can be tricky, and here's the trick. I'm sure plenty of guys have taught this trick in the past. Most recently, I saw it on a channel I stumbled across because they were doing a bunch of Titan X installs, but Untamed Outdoors, and they did the old string and a wrench trick. So you tie a piece of rope around a wrench, you slide the wrench to the front of the boat, and then you go up there and retrieve it. I used a magnet because there's a lot of stuff going on in this hull, so it's kind of hard to dodge everything. So I had this little extendable magnet and I just reached it back as far as I could, magnetized that wrench, pulled it back towards me, and then you tie the rope or electrical tape the rope like I did around your power cable and you drag that sucker to the back of the boat. And there it is. So that was the easiest way that I got it done. And then that comes to this, which is meant for Dakota Lithium, but this is a quick connect for Dakota Lithium. So it goes from my power cable to the battery. One thing about this for Native is like on a super wide battery, the way that this Power Queen is set up, these cables barely reach the attachments, which is not ideal. And also not Native's fault. This is designed for Dakota Lithium. So Dakota Lithium has their towers for their batteries a little bit closer. Just something I'd point out. You might have to finagle that a bit. I wish these wires were just a teensy bit longer, but it does fit, it does work, it's fine, and effective. Also, I gotta charge this thing. So that was it for the wiring. Wiring was a little bit frustrating at first just because when I was connecting a few of the wires, because I didn't have the correct electrical equipment, which I wish I had read about somewhere, I damaged 2 of the splices and had to cut 2 of the wires just a teensy bit shorter. It worked out fine in the end. None of my local hardware stores sell 8 gauge to 8 gauge, as in not a step down, but they're called a butt splice, right? So that's the little tube piece is the metal in the middle and you crimp it so it holds onto the wires and keeps conductivity of electricity going well. Nobody had an 8 to an 8. So I was like, am I screwed? but I kind of lucked out because I just didn't need to make as many connections as I thought. So I think they included like 2 extra ones in the kit, and I broke both of them. And it worked out fine in the end, so we're good. Other than the wiring, there's 2 other things that you have to do, and you do have to drill 1 hole in the hull of the boat, and that's this hole right here. So they do include this little piece here. I had an issue with their instructional video. They didn't mention what size bit, so you just have to guess at it. What I ended up doing was kind of just stepping it up a little bit at a time, and I think we ended up somewhere around 3/8 is the bit size. But yeah, they never called it out in the video, so that was a little bit frustrating, but there it is right there. And then you just tap that sucker in, run your Spectra cable through there. There's no tube on the inside, you don't need it. So this goes up to here, where there's actually a small strip of bungee that you tie your Spectra cable to either end of. And if you guys just go watch, I'll link it in the description, just watch their instructional video. That's what I'm talking about when I say like the best option for the quick release foot pedal. It's sick. So you get a little spring action with it, and then it can hold down right here in this quick cleat. And the quick cleat is track mounted. Now here's where I made a boo-boo. So in their video, they use a drill to tighten these down. Do not do that. Don't do it. Use a screwdriver. It's a better idea, because I did crack this almost immediately. And I even had like the torque settings on my drill low, but didn't work out for me in the end. So don't do that, that's bad. All right, so I'm pretty happy with this. As you can see, she's running, she's turning, we got control. We're good. I'm excited to get this thing on the water. Hopefully you guys are as well, just to see us, operating this thing and maybe get more of a full-on review with it in action. I'll be using it this weekend, actually. So you should see a fishing video with us and like Debo's Fishing, Ethan Duvetter, otherwise known as Fish Anything, out on the water with this. Hopefully we have some banger days and I can give you more feedback on this in the future. But there you go. Hopefully this Xi3 video with the Native Titan X was helpful for you. If it was, let us know in the comments. Subscribe, smash that like, and we will catch you on the next video. All right, you guys, so we got the Xi3 up front. I've got my pedal drive today. I decided to try it out for using both. If you don't do anything, the pedal just kind of free willies itself. You can just hold position, it'll slow you down. So you can see my speed here. If you can see my speed here, it's dropped me down to about 3.7. If I start pedaling though, I can get this thing up to, you'll have to pinch to zoom on YouTube, but I can get it up to 4.5. Or you can just do like an easy assist, just like a super chill vibe, bro. No biggie. It's been pretty clutch. Little learning curve, but holds up well. Biggest thing I found out is it kind of like really struggles through heavy weed cover, as expected. It's a prop, and it'll kind of shimmy a little bit, start chugging along. So I'd just be like a little bit cautious around weeds. Otherwise, I've been really happy with it, and it's allowing me to cross this water really fast to get to where Paul and Ethan are right now. So I can actually maybe catch some fish for the day. That'd be sick. Not likely.